I'm Daisy.
And I'm Terri.
And this is the Monday Mindset Podcast,
where we share things of interest to us and hopefully to you.
So let's get started with episode number 159.
And for this episode, Daisy and I decided that we would do a little bit of a catch-up and a little bit of a preview just to talk about, since it's early summer, what our summers look like, what our plans are, what we're working on, so that you kind of know where we're coming from as you're listening to us throughout the summer. So, Daisy, what is on your agenda for the rest of this summer?
Well, Terri, I am mostly DIYing. I am determined to get the house done. I call it a house. It's actually a maisonette. I don't know. Americans probably don't know what a maisonette is. A maisonette is presumably comes, well, I say it comes from a French word. The French word isn't maisonette, but the sort of clues in the name. If you know French, you know maison is French for house. Maisonette is like a little house. So it's a part of a house. And maisonettes generally, they're basically 2-story flats. So we have flats, which are your apartments. And then you have like 2 flats sandwiched together, which is a maisonette. So I have, and it's part of a house. And our flats are often houses that have been divided up into flats. We have, purpose-built blocks of flats as well. But so the houses in my street are basically 4 stories, basement upwards. And some of them are 4 flats and some of them are split into 2 maisonettes. And that's what I have. I have a maisonette. So I have the bottom half of the house. So I have the basement level and the ground floor level, and then somebody else is in the first and second floors. So it's quite nice. So you sort of have a bit of a house. Obviously you have the issues with sharing that house with neighbours, but that's a whole different story. And it's taken me a while, and I'm still not completely used to having elephant walkers upstairs and things, but I've gradually got more and more used to it. But it's needed an awful lot of work doing to it, and I've had dramas finding builders. I did have finally found a decent builder, and he's sort of coming to the end of the work that he's doing. But there's a lot of the work that I'm doing. Originally the plan was for builders to do pretty well all of it, and I would just do the decorating. The decorating's always a huge job in and of itself, or more the preparation is the difficult bit. But I've ended up taking on a bit more of their sort of heavy duty stuff. So I've been doing such things as lath and plastering, which is the old fashioned lath and plaster, where they used to, now people would just use plasterboard. They would put up laths, which are pieces of wood, and then you put on the lime plaster, and what happens, it goes on and it hooks behind the laths, and that's what holds it and makes it strong. There are some areas where I've repaired that, it crumbled over time, and I've decided to go with that because the beauty of lime plaster is that it's breathable, and because the basement part of the maisonette is always going to have some damp issues, so the more breathable you can keep the fabric of the building, the better. And that's the thing with lime plaster, it allows the building to breathe. So there can be moisture in there, but it can breathe back and forward, so the moisture can escape basically. So in the areas that I've decided to repair, it's where it's sort of important because it's next to an external wall and things like that. So I'm going off on a tangent describing all my building work, but as you can tell, there's some sort of quite building work. It's sort of an upper level from your typical DIY, so it's quite involved, but it just takes forever. Jobs that I think are going to take a day end up taking 3 days. And I was just telling you before we started that I had to take a bathroom cabinet to pieces and paint every surface because there's mold growing in there, and I know several people who've had real issues with health problems with mold, so that was important. But that's, 3 or 4 days that wasn't on my schedule that I've had to add in. So there's all that stuff, and I'm, trying to build my garden at the same time. I've obviously got my editing going on, so there's a lot that I'm trying to juggle, and a few things have gone a bit fallen by the wayside. Like I haven't been swimming, which I kind of need to get back into really for my own health and well-being, but it's finding the time. And I think I've set a bit of you can only go if you go really early in the morning, but of course I think I'll go later in the day, but then I'm busy painting or whatever. But the problem at the moment with swimming in the sea is apparently there are loads of jellyfish about, so nope.
I think the bathtub sounds quite nice for swimming right now.
I'm not a fan of jellyfish. I don't know whether it comes from when I was a very young child, lived in Africa for a couple of years, and I don't remember it, but I was stung by a Portuguese man of war. And before people shout that it's not a jellyfish, because Portuguese man of war aren't actually jellyfish, but they look a lot like jellyfish, so they come under the jellyfish heading for me. And apparently it was quite a traumatic experience. I don't remember it, but I expect my subconscious remembers it, and I remember the stories about it. So there's that, coupled with just, I think, the very terrifying prospect of swimming headfirst into a jellyfish. I think most people would not be too thrilled about that.
Absolutely. I've been stung once by a jellyfish, and it was not a traumatic experience, and I still would try to avoid it at all costs. So I can imagine that being something that you would definitely want to avoid based on your experience.
Exactly. And I suppose because it's the summer, I am determined to get at least the things I need to get done to get my stuff out of storage, because my most of my stuff's been in storage for the best part of 2 years now. But I have to get these 2 rooms done before I can move what is crammed into 1 room at the moment down into these 2 rooms. Then I can get my things out of storage, and then I can get the windows replaced. The windows can't be replaced until the stuff comes out of storage, because the stuff coming out of storage has got to come through the windows. And this is kind of the place I was in last summer, and I didn't get my act together. And before I knew it, the summer was gone. The summer obviously is a perfect time to be doing all these things, because the windows can be open, the fresh air coming through with, when I'm sanding floors and painting things and all the fumes. You want the windows open, and you want things to be able to dry quickly. I mean, that's the biggest difference I've seen with drying times. With doing things this time of year. It's the perfect time of year to be doing things. But obviously it's the perfect time of year to be doing stuff in the garden as well. So I'm being pulled in all these different directions. But I have actually got a bit of momentum going this summer. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just keep going with that and just push through and get as much done as I can.
Very good.
So that's my summer.
Well, it sounds like you are framing it up for this summer a little differently than last summer. So hopefully when we check in September or October, you're feeling really good about where you are with that. It's interesting that you mentioned the moving and the doing projects and things, because part of my summer will entail moving from San Diego to a small town in Colorado. Moving from an apartment where I have had many elephant walkers live above me so far this year. The current person up there also has a very playful dog, and it sounds like they're throwing glass balls for the dog to chase. So that's been fun. Side note, when I first moved in here, I thought the person above me not only walked really heavy, but I also thought in the middle of the night was dropping bowling balls on the floor.
I remember that.
The banging noise in my bedroom. So I knew it was their bedroom over my bedroom. And it was just these tremendously loud thuds at 2:30 in the morning. And I couldn't figure it out, and went up and talked to the person and talked to the apartment guys. And they're like, well, what do you think he's doing? I said, I don't know. I think maybe he's selling personalized bowling balls on Etsy, and he's getting them ready at 2 a.m. and keeps dropping them. I don't know. And then a couple of months ago, I started hearing it again. It was so loud. It was about 2:30 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning. And I thought, this is just ridiculous. And it finally dawned on me, maybe he's not dropping bowling balls. Maybe it's something else. Where could that sound be coming from? And I kind of connected it to hearing it sometimes during the day too. And I realized, I think it's coming from the gym that is on the first floor of my building. And I'm on the third floor. So put some clothes on, walked down to the gym at 2:30 in the morning. And there was our security guy doing his weightlifting workout. And of course, people that lift heavy weights, what do when they're done with that set? They just let the weights drop to the floor. And that's what I was hearing. So all this time, I had been blaming it on the poor guy upstairs. It was not him. It was the gym.
So you weren't a million miles off with throwing bowling balls around then, really.
It was gigantic weight plates being dropped onto the floor. Exactly.
It shows how tricky noise is, though, isn't it? That it could fool you into thinking it's got to be the guy upstairs, and it wasn't. It was actually coming from 2 floors
because
down.
Usually you hear the sound above you more than below you, unless it's coming from the gym and it's dropping weights. So I actually opened the door and I said, excuse me, do you know that everyone can hear everything you're doing in here? And he looked really apologetic. He was soon terminated after that because I guess he's not supposed to be lifting weights during his shift. But anyway, so I'm moving out of this apartment building and moving into a house, a standalone house, so sharing no walls with anyone else, no one above, no one below.
So you're doing the opposite to what I did.
That's right. That's right. And we do have some projects that we'll need to do. Some things are move-in ready, but there are some things that we're going to want to change. So we're actually heading there at the end of this month to start picking out some new flooring and paint colors and things and getting some things done to the yard and all of those fun things. So
very exciting.
Some DIY stuff will be on my list soon, but not anything near what you've been working on. So the other part of my summer is juggling you and I recording for the TFM podcast, and also working as a coach with TFM.
And moving.
Yes, which means packing, of course. And some of you, if you've known me for a while, you're like, geez, she seems to move a lot. I do. Unfortunately, since I've lived in San Diego, I've had to move a couple of times just because where I was living didn't want to extend the lease longer and those kind of things. So I've moved 3 times since I've lived here in 4 years. But before that, I'd moved to Hawaii for 10 months. So I do move fairly often. And you would think I would be really good at just having a few things to pack and be ready to go. But no.
I was going to say, the amount of downsizing you did, especially with that move to Hawaii, I remember going through all your stuff. I mean, that was a massive downsize.
But one thing I have found to be true of myself is if you have the space, you will fill it. And so I have upsized since then. So I have lots of things to go through over these next couple of months, and lots of, navigating, setting up the movers, and what day can they come, and what date is this, and when should I take time off, and all of these little juggling of details that I'm doing right now. But also, I was just going to mention about our recording is that Daisy and I have tried a lot of different things as far as coordinating. For those of you who don't know us well, Daisy's in the UK. I'm in the Pacific time zone, so there's 8 hours time difference most of the time for us. And this means it's 10 o'clock at night and we're recording a podcast episode because that's what the time I had available that day. And Daisy's been doing DIY stuff all day and then recording before falling off to bed. We do a lot of our recording on Sundays because it's the only time that we both can find a time, which we're doing today. So that's another thing that we juggle into our summer as well as the rest of the year. And then I would say there's always some goals on my part as far as some self-development things that I want to be working on, listening to podcasts, reading books, all of those things. But lately I've signed up for a course, and it's not a fancy course that, not like an academic course per se. And I've also been listening to a book about mindfulness and meditation because I know the value of these, but I don't use them enough. And I feel like partly I don't use them enough because I don't feel like I know enough to know what to do and do it properly. So I've been just these past few days even listening to a particular book, which kind of sparked me into going in, and there's a meditation center here in San Diego, and going in listening to their Dharma talks and things. So just kind of trying to expand my experience level and knowledge level. So that's my little bit of a personal development thing that I hope to work on this summer.
Oh, I shall look forward to hearing more about that, because as soon as you say that, oh, it's one of those things I keep meaning to. Yeah, I could be saying that. And I've said it before. I think, it's something that we've talked about on the podcast before. I think both of us have probably shared episodes where people have been talking about the benefits of meditation or the benefits of mindfulness. And, I've said it so many times. Yeah, I must get around to doing so, because we've, like I say, we've shared people talking about. We know the benefits of the numerous benefits that can come from even just a few minutes of meditation a day. So I shall be really interested to get your feedback on that and hear the practical ways that you start putting it into action, because is it the knowing doing gap? We've talked about that before, I think, haven't we? It's you get interested in something, you get inspired about it, but how do you make that leap from, gosh, that sounds really interesting, I should do that, to actually doing it? Yeah. Sometimes that gap just seems like a chasm for some unfathomable reason.
And I think similar to your swimming in the sea kind of thing, it's a great plan and it's got tons of benefits, but if you don't develop the practice, you'll never get the benefits. And, I might meditate here and there and not sure how I'm doing with it, but I really want to work toward developing a practice and understanding why I would do what in that practice. So I'm looking forward to that development. And kind of interesting, this morning before we got on, I was listening to a Dharma talk, and he was talking about reactivity. And I've thought back to some of our conversations. When you think and believe differently than someone else, it's very easy to be in a place of judgment and to be reactive to what they're saying and how you interact with them. So he was talking about this on a broader level, but also when you're reactive in a conversation or to something in your environment or to someone. And so I thought, yes, this is the other piece of rounding out the listening to podcasts and learning it intellectually, but to really work on the practice of developing skills to help me make some of the things you and I talk about feel more possible. So
it sounds, again, it sounds like it will have these benefits, but that's a really interesting way of seeing how learning some of these practices could help in that moment of reactivity. I can already sense from what you're saying, once you get into this practice of meditation and mindfulness, and presumably coming at it from a few different angles and different approaches and different ways of doing it, there'll be something that you can sort of pull out of your toolbox to be able to help you in that moment of reactivity. The old sort of counting to 10, I suppose, but that kind of thing. Yeah. But it's only with practice, with doing something all the time, that it becomes second nature, becomes something that you can easily pull out and apply in the moment. But it's only easy when you're doing it all the time.
Absolutely. The other thing that struck me from the book that I'm listening to, I'm trying to get out of using the word reading, because I'm not holding the book and actually reading it, but I'm absorbing it through listening, is that at least the form that he's talking about with meditation, it's not about some of the things that I would have thought meditation was for in the past, like, oh, it's just for relaxation, or it's, it does this, or it does this. But one of the things he talked about is that it really fosters and requires a lot of self-reflection and increasing self-awareness. And I generally think of myself as someone who's fairly self-aware. But as he was talking about some of the things in the book, I just thought, yeah, even in this example of the reactivity, I have to get more in touch with what's being tripped off by this when someone else says this or shares this. Where does that come from? Inside me, in my history, in my blind spots, in my, shadow self. And so I am looking forward to working on this throughout the summer, developing some things so that I can continue to develop them for years to, again, look deeper, understand myself more, so that I can keep showing up in as connected and as present of a way as possible. Because I know sometimes my way of dealing with things that start to get tense is I kind of check out emotionally, kind of disconnect a little bit. So looking forward to this self-development. And I know it's not going to be just this summer, but I know if I focus on it throughout this summer, I have a better shot at developing a practice that I can continue for the rest of my life.
Well, it sounds like you're going to have a much more intellectual summer. Mine's very practical.
It's good though. That's good because it's going to set up your whole environmental experience differently when you have stuff that's no longer in storage, when you can finalize your things and have things where they belong. So far my sense of what you've described is you've had to kind of make do with the space that is ready.
That's true.
And then you have to move it. And it's not really how you would have your house and your environment set up when it's all done. And I think that's going to be really powerful for you, Daisy, to have different living space and have each part of your living space designed the way you want it for what you're using it for.
Yes, it's funny how I get used to things, and maybe it's growing up. We moved often had places that were not building sites, but there was often building work going on. So it's a kind of environment that I'm quite used to. And that got more so when I started having my own places. They've almost always been sort of part building site. There's always been something going on. You kind of get used to it, but there is a sort of low level of sort of all the time stress that comes from it. So it will be nice to get things done. It's only when somebody comes in and you see it through their eyes, like a local friend comes in, she was like, you won't know yourself when those rooms are done, when that's, when the house is more done. It's just going to be so different. And other people who come in, and I don't know how you can live with. So basically half your property is building site, is unusable, so it will make a big difference. So yes, I am looking forward to it, and especially thinking ahead. It already feels like the summer is racing away. I'm thinking about scheduling the different things, and I'm already thinking about trying to get things done before the next winter is coming, and it feels like it's slipping away really quickly. But yes, so it will be nice to be heading into the next time when you hunker down and naturally, I guess, focus in on more on the things you're doing inside. It is this time of year, and it really depends where you live. I know where you live, certainly at the moment anyway, where you're moving to is going to be much more seasonal. So you'll be living a bit more like I do. But where you are, it's sort of like our summer all the time, really, isn't it? But when it's summer here, everyone sort of, wants to be outside and they want to be doing outside things. And when there's a garden to develop like I've got here, you're wanting to be done that. So you're being pulled in all these different directions. But once you start heading into the winter, that narrows down much more, and it turns much more inward, and you can focus on different things.
Absolutely.
But we have been blessed with amazing weather. Of course, Brits have to complain about the weather. I'm not complaining about it at all. I think it's been fabulous. But we do need some rain. It hasn't. Somebody pointed out, I don't think it's rained a drop for pretty much a whole month. So the gardens really do need it, but we have had incredible weather. We've had more weather like you have, really.
However,
it's been wonderful.
Here in San Diego, we are currently having maybe a little bit more of what you might normally have.
Yeah.
We've had rain a couple of times within the past couple of days, and we don't normally have that. I think my first year here, we may have gone from like March until July or August with no rain, like none.
Incredible.
But we've had so much rain this winter and many times this spring.
Yes, when my aunt and uncle visited.
Yeah.
Apparently the worst weather you've had for decades.
And right now, this is something I think is kind of cute about San Diego. Because again, the climate, the weather here is generally very temperate. It is usually 68 to 72 degrees, sunny, really comfortable, very nice. We've had a very cold, gray winter, but May is known as May Gray.
Oh, really?
It's something coming off the ocean. It's kind of gray in May. And I'd forgotten this year because our whole winter was so gray. And now we are in the midst of June gloom.
Oh, no.
So I've read somewhere they have names for if it continues into July and August. I think it's August, Schmogust, or Smogust or something like that. So I'm having lots of gray days here right now in sunny California. And so very much looking forward to Colorado. The sunshine is very different there. It's, high elevation, a lot of sunny days, even though I will definitely be experiencing some snow again, which I thought I had moved away from forever.
I was going to say, so you'll be getting used to cold winters again.
That's right. That's right. Gracie will have to remember what it was like. Koa has never seen snow, so that will be kind of fun to get to see Koa deal with his first romp in the snow.
Dogs usually love snow, in my experience.
Yeah, I think he will. There's this great video on YouTube. I post it probably once a year because it just makes it just tickles me so much. It's a dog that looks exactly like Koa, and he jumps in like a saucer sled and goes down this big hill and then picks it up and runs back to the top and jumps back in. And I always thought
that would be Koa.
That would be Koa in the snow. So I'll actually get to test that out.
Koa and Loki having races.
That's right. Snow races. Very good. So I thought it might be good to help just kind of give a little bit of a preview for listeners, knowing what to expect in the month of August, which is moving month for me and end of summer, end of DIY time for you. We will be running episodes that we have aired before that we find people seem to really like. So we will re-air a few episodes during August. So I just want people to know that based on their summer plans and our summer plans, August will be a review month for us.
Yes, so we'll each pick a couple of our favorite episodes to re-enjoy.
So very good, Daisy. I think we've kind of gone over what our summers look like. I hope that our listeners have things on their agenda for the summer that can be things that they're getting done, things that they're excited about, tasks and things that they want to do, projects, but also maybe some personal development things that they want to give themselves some time to work on this summer.
And hopefully some nice fancy schmancy holidays.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully they won't be spending time cleaning mold or packing boxes like you and I will be.
Well, I hope everyone has enjoyed sharing us, just having a bit of a chit chat and a roundup and letting you know what's going to be happening for our summer.
So until next week, I hope everyone has a great week and we'll be back.
Have a wonderful week.